Sweet baby Jesus on a breadstick, what the hell happened here? This is fucking baffling. You know that feeling when you see something so completely fucking out there and insane that even though it's an absolute misguided car crash of ideas, you can't help but just stare in disbelief. You know what? Look. Spoilers. We're going straight into spoiler territory. I try to avoid this normally, but I'm sorry. I have to get this off my chest because no matter which way I slice this, I cannot, under any circumstances, believe that this thing that I want to talk about was the plot they fucking went with, and yet it was. You want to know what this film is about? You really want to know? Alright, if you're sticking around, I'm gonna need you to brace yourselves for some of the oddest shit, because I need to tell the whole sodding world that the premise of this movie, the incident that drives a large amount of the conflict surrounding the main characters and most of the third act, is fucking this. Okay, so you know the Predator, right? You know that old 1980s iconic action sci-fi villain? The one whose motivations were to brutally murder some of the hardest motherfuckers on planet Earth and pinch their spines to, I don't know, presumably use as doorsteps or a nice scarf or something because that's just what his kind did for shits and giggles? Yeah, that guy. Well, one of his mates from back on the Predator planet is visiting Earth this time around, and he's basically the same as that guy, just taller, only this one has different goals. The gist of this movie, among other ill-conceived ideas we'll get into, the premise of this one, right, is that this Predator is, well, he's here on Earth to steal autism. What? I swear to Christ, this is genuinely the plot they went with. No bullshit. That is not me making an insensitive joke there. I sincerely wouldn't do that. I mean, I'm actually talking from the perspective of a dude who, unknown to me until my adulthood, was actually suspected of having autism as a child and who's currently in the process of undergoing a potential diagnosis. My GP actually referred me to a specialist late last year after having noticed several symptoms in me and concluding that I'm likely on the spectrum. So I'm fully anticipating sometime in the next couple of months to officially be registered as possibly having a developmental disorder. And I'm only saying this so you know I'm really not taking the piss here. Oh, and side note, just in case you're interested and you're wondering why, if I was referred last year, it's taking so long to process my official diagnosis, that's just because there is a minimum 12-month waiting period in my area for appointments with the adult diagnostic services, even if a medical professional has referred you after basically saying, hey dude, you're defo proper autistic. But that's just because, as far as I'm aware, like one small building with about 3 staff to its name is responsible for the whole region of officially registering adults on the spectrum, since mental health support in general is grossly underfunded in this country, but especially in the Northeast, and especially in people over the age of 18 under this horrible government. That's a sad tangent, I know, so that's why I put a picture of a clown there to cheer you up. There he is, bless him. Bad idea in hindsight. Just makes that statement look more menacing, actually. Like the clown's really happy about it. Also, no one likes clowns. They're fucking dreadful. Anyway, tangent aside, the point is I'm really not taking the piss. And I just needed to fully illustrate that because for those who haven't seen the film, I am well aware that me saying the Predator wants to get autism sounds very much like a shitty joke. But it's not. It's fucking not. I'm not even offended. I'm fucking confused. How? What? This film had well-documented, extensive reshoots and re-edits, and that concept still managed to make the final cut? You're probably wondering how this comes about, right? As if there's any logical steps one could take to make such an unfathomable plot beat work. And, yeah... Even knowing the steps we take to get there, I can assure you this is still as absolutely batshit as it sounds. I'll try and explain it though. So right, there's this Predator alien and it crashes down to Earth and gets captured by scientists and they're strapping him down and doing sciencey shit to him when they find out it has human DNA. Naturally this makes him go How's this daft bugger got human DNA? Did someone shag an alien? Anyway, it turns out what's actually happened is the predator species has been going around all the planets in the universe, grabbing the strongest warriors from each of those planets and stealing their genetic data so they can splice it into the next generation of predators. The end goal being that eventually their species will evolve over the years as the ultimate top of the food chain murder machine Swiss Army amalgamation of every other thing's best killing traits. It's sort of like the gone round those pick and mix stands you get at cinemas filled with all the different sweets going, ooh, I'll have a bit of that and that. Only instead of massively overpriced jelly babies, this pick and mix is full of technology and the genetic code for impenetrable skin. It's probably still fucking cheaper than the sweets as well. Cineworld, I am not made of fucking cash, mate. I'll buy a damn pick and mix when it doesn't cost 700 quid, 3 goats in my left testicle, you cheap fucks. Anyway, what's this got to do with autism, I hear you ask? Well, the guy who finds the crash-landed predator is a sniper with an autistic son, who ends up unwillingly wrapped up in the events of the film when the government try to keep him quiet on the subject of his discovery. This, by extension, also unwillingly drags his estranged family into the conflict with the alien equivalent of an old-school Tory. I'm just saying, people hunting for sport, fox hunting for sport, the parallels are there, I'm only pointing them out. And at one instance in the film, this joyless, characterless sniper protagonist tells the joyless, characterless female scientist protagonist, "Hey, I've got an autistic son," and she replies with, "Some scientists believe that being on the spectrum isn't a disorder, but rather the next evolution of the human species." Okay. 1, no fucking scientist has ever said that. Unless by some scientists, you mean 3 specific scientists who put forward the hypotheses of the intense world syndrome, which has been recurringly misunderstood and misquoted by blogs in an effort to get headlines that say, "Autism is a superpower, you guys." 2, that is a weirdly specific thing to say in the context of the conversation it's set in, and not at all how people speak. It sounds like you're reading Wikipedia out loud. 3, you know why that line is there, right? Yeah, you can see where this is going. So anyway, a bigger predator comes along and kills the little predator, who actually turns out to be a good guy, because fuck, this film has approximately 7 billion subplots going on at once and none of them are good. And this bigger predator decides he agrees with the autistic superhero hypotheses and decides to, as part of the 3rd act climax, kidnap our main sniper dude's son in order to steal the kid's Asperger's syndrome so he can give fucking Asperger's syndrome to the rest of the predator race. Alright, look. Shane Black, lad. I like your work. I really do. You're one of my favourite contemporary writers going, but I gotta tell you, fella, as far as misguided efforts go, this is about as up there as that time they got Pee Wee Herman to teach kids about crack cocaine. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say this is supposed to come off as empowering, but it really just reads fucking clueless. For one, no one on this earth wants to see a plot where the predator steals autistic kids like some kind of sci-fi syndrome-obsessed Krampus. Like, no! Mate, no! For another, the logical leaps you have to make in order for that ridiculous plot point to even come close to working is beyond comprehension. The autistic kid in this movie is a ridiculous caricature of autistic traits that's somewhere between Rain Man and a member of the X-Men, and not even the ridiculous talents of child actor Jacob Tremblay can make this nonsense work. I mean, look at how you illustrate this kid's Asperger's syndrome. Having special interests is cool and fine. Social setting struggles, yeah, okay. And even to an extent, I'll give you doing things like remembering the layouts of several mid-game chessboards after giving them only a passing glance. Okay, bit on the nose, bit stereotypical, but some people on the spectrum can do shit like that, and I can get away with it. But being able to understand the language and alphabet of an alien fucking species that uses symbols far removed from Romanized letters so well that a secret government agency seems to be bringing in the child as a fucking alien language consultant at the end of the movie is quite frankly utter bollocks. Autistic kids aren't fucking superheroes. Autistic kids are kids. They aren't the next evolution of humanity. Charles Xavier isn't waiting on bated breath for my final official diagnosis so that if it's a yes, he can wheel up to my one-bedroom apartment in northeast England and go, "Here lad, you want to be our team leader? The last bloke we had could shoot lasers out of his eyes, but you can do way cooler shit like not maintain eye contact and occasionally struggle to pick up non-verbal social cues. So as far as I'm concerned, his spot's yours if you want it." I'm all for positive representation of those who don't always get it, but like, wait, man. There's a level where it becomes a little patronizing, don't you think? I mean, fucking hell, if my doctor thinks I might be autistic, you know, me, this fucking self-appointed king of the soy boys, then I gotta tell you, Shane, humanity's fucking screwed, brother. Unless somehow saving the world is going to one day rely on my ability to recite from memory all the backstories of the different Mortal Kombat characters and list my favourite dinosaurs, then I'm not going to be much help there, fella. Now, I know I'm going on about the autism thing a lot because, I mean, Jesus, how could I not? That's the biggest takeaway from this film for sure. But you're probably wondering, how is the rest of it? And the answer is just as terrible, and somehow also mind-numbingly boring. Let's just look for a moment at the first Predator film. It's brilliant, it's awesome, I love it. Now, one of the many things that makes the first Predator film work is just that it's simple. One real main protagonist, one main antagonist, some cannon fodder to sell the danger, and the most stripped back setting and survival narrative you could possibly imagine. Why does the Predator kill people in the movie? Because it's good banter. Fuck it, I'm on board. I don't need more motivation than that. What's Arnie's goal? To not fucking die. Got it. Sweet. Let's see how this plays out. The Predator 2018 movie, though, insists on weaving this massively complicated fucking tapestry of half-baked ideas, ranging in everything from the conceptually serious government conspiracy cover-ups and PTSD commentary to possible gay romantic subplots. I'm really not sure on that last one. It's kind of unclear. To the conceptually fucking absurd, like the accidental lobotomizing of a predator's pet alien dog, which makes the dog domesticated so that it can follow our heroes round until it fills out its deus ex machina purpose of vomiting a hand grenade at the right moment where doing such a thing will save the day. Not fucking kidding, that actually happens. Not content with making one Predator movie here, Shane Black and crew, and likely the studio that reportedly heavily interfered with the process of this film's creation, seem to have made all the possible Predator films. Some of the plot beats and concepts in this movie include, what if the Predator species had a traitor that was actually trying to help the humans? What if hybridization led to a super Predator coming to Earth? What if a Predator attacked a suburban setting on Halloween? What if we did a throwback to the original Predator, throwing together a ragtag group of hard-ass soldiers and putting them against the alien, but in a compelling twist, instead of making them ultra-masculine fighters, we instead make them even more vulnerable by having each of them be in some way afflicted by the symptoms of PTSD? What if we did a narrative where a female academic is the protagonist and has to overcome both the Predator and a government who wants her dead so she can't spread this top secret information? What if the only hope at halting the potential massacre carried out by this monstrously strong and well-equipped killing machine rested on the shoulders of a bullied young boy? Any single one of those concepts could be easily fleshed out into a full movie. Hell, I'd definitely watch a full feature of the Halloween shtick, and yet for some reason, all of these plots, and many more, are crammed into this overstuffed, nonsensical barrage of beats that are completely disjointed and tonally at odds with each other, to the point where sometimes I had no clue what was going on. For example, at one point the characters suddenly have a caravan full of guns. Like out of nowhere. One scene they don't have it. The next they're just cruising around like they're taking the NRA inventory on a camping trip. Where did this come from? I can believe maybe that they just found and hotwired a vehicle, but it also coincidentally happens to be full to the brim with high-grade military-level weaponry? Really? Did I miss something? I mean, I'm willing to put my hands up and say that's a possibility. There's so much shit flying at you at such a rapid rate that I did lose track of things at times, but I am sure we have no explanation for the sudden acquiring of what essentially boils down to a survivalist's apocalypse shelter on wheels. I can only imagine the extensive reshoots and editing made this disappear. I guess. I don't know. I honestly don't even know what this film is. Is it meant to be played straight serious? Is it like a throw-up comedic parody homage thing? I honestly can't tell. Sometimes it feels like the latter, throwing in a recurring gag about how the Predator is actually a pretty inaccurate nickname for the alien and it should be called the Hunter. There's an ill-conceived joke about Tourette's where a guy makes Olivia Munn's character uncomfortable by shouting about pussy, and rather than just explain that dude has Tourette's, they for some reason overextend this gag where him and all the other characters who know about his syndrome for some reason pretends he doesn't have Tourette's and that he said something else. Even though prior in the film, no one had any problem explaining his outbursts were due to Tourette's. Like, why drag this out? Why not just tell her that? And then you got tongue-in-cheek throwback lines like, get to the choppers. Ha, get it? Because it's motorbikes this time. Ha, it's not a helicopter. And that's funny, I think. But then we'll go from shit like that and an endless barrage of your mama jokes to fucking sad and melancholy scenes of death with like drawn out piano behind it and Soul just crying from PTSD and the kid questioning whether his estranged dad is a good person or not, which juxtaposes really oddly with his dad explaining the difference between a soldier and a killer is when you enjoy killing, only for his dad to later say, I'm gonna enjoy this as he kills some dudes, to throw in a hard-ass line. And I'm thinking, did they just intentionally or unintentionally condemn their protagonist to being an immoral character by his own metric? Was that commentary? Was it trying to say something? I just don't get it. Everything's just weird, like super weird, and it's really wobbly too. It has like 3 villains, and the one you least want to see becomes the most prominent, and he starts off good, I think, but then suddenly becomes bad, and one of the bad ones turns out to be good, but still murders loads of people anyway. The action's really clunky. There's a scene where the main group are fighting the Predator dogs, and instead of, chasing and jumping through things and, actual action happening in this action scene, they all just kind of stand 2 foot away from these supposedly dangerous monsters and just empty clip after clip into them, while the dogs just kind of stand there going, we're really dangerous. We're not going to move though. You come to us if you want to fight. Other scenes are either overblown with CG, such as the case of all the stuff with the big Predator, or focus too long on the wrong points of action so that it becomes really obvious that the monster who isn't CG is a dude in a suit, such as the case with the little Predator. $88 million this cost, and there's honestly times where the action's so wonky and the story is such a lazy feeling combination of badass one-liners and expanded universe-based techno-babbly nonsense that there's moments where it actually sincerely feels like a made-for-TV sci-fi channel original production. I am struggling to find the words to express how much I dislike this new Predator reboot/sequel/mess. This shit is something else. Some of the creative decisions that made it into the final film are so ass backwards, I can only assume it wasn't really written by Shane Black and Fred Dekker, but was instead put together by a group of actual Predator aliens, since presumably only an alien outsider with no concept of how actual human interaction occurs could possibly think half of this shit was a good idea. It's not just that Predator is a bad movie, it in my opinion goes into the rare realm beyond that. Bad I could have handled, bad is fine. Loads of franchises have bad attempts at revitalizing interest in long dormant IPs, but usually, as awful as some may be, they rarely ever reach the levels of how in the hell did this happen insanity that this film gets to. I mean, I guess if nothing else, it could have been worse, I suppose. They could have went and cast an actual Predator in the form of a registered sex offender previously convicted for attempting to start a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl and not mentioned the guy's monstrous past deeds to the actress who co-starred in the scene with him, forcing them to make last-minute re-edits and remove him from the film when all this came to light to avoid further horrendous controversy. So, at least they didn't do that. That would have been a very... Oh, no, they did do that. Oh, that's a bad look.